Welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
All right, welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art. What's up, Todd? How are you?
Oh, it's funny. Look, it asked for my name before I put it in. Do you see what's down there?
This is Beefy. Yeah, that's funny.
First thing that came to mind. All right. So what do you have for us today, Art?
Well, I want to talk about a couple of things, which I'm actually kind of nervous to talk about, by the way.
Yeah, right.
And we're talking about $1 billion versus two guys talking about this stuff, you know?
Billions and billions, dude. It's not just billions.
I am leading up to this. I was kind of nervous about talking about this stuff, but I think it just needs to be said.
We've already had our careers, dude. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's not like we're like year 2 and we have to worry about it.
Yeah. So I know when I got into this industry, 13 years ago, and even growing up as a kid, I remember going to the vet, and it was the vet, it was his practice, and you just got this kind of care that you don't get today. Even with doctors, dentists, HVACs people, if you notice, there's like a bunch of corporations that run all of these, small businesses who were once small businesses. And so what we're going to talk about today is the vet industry that is being purchased by private equity. All right.
And what that means.
What's that?
And what that means. It's important to understand this just isn't an exchange of ownership.
Yeah.
That's not the only, that's the smallest part of this.
And so, the reason why there's hesitancy on my part is just because, again, there's billions of dollars behind this versus us not worth billions of dollars, right? And if you guys can Google this, but Google the difference between $1 billion and $1 million, and there's a huge difference. But just to put that in perspective, what that looks like, if you were to have 1 million seconds, it's like 11 days, roughly. Okay, if you were to look at 1 billion seconds, it's 34 years. So that puts things into perspective in a way we might be able to understand. So it's kind of mind blowing. All right. So recently, during the holidays, I had to, I went out of town. And so I had 3 of my dogs staying with a pet sitter. And this is where this all started, by the way.
At your house or at
Not
their
my
house?
house, at her house. Okay. And we don't know exactly what happened. But one of my dogs got a puncture on the bottom of her tongue, only at the bottom of her tongue, not on the chin. So we don't know if she hit something or what caused it. The pet sitter just told me that she heard something, went to the room she was at.
Puncture through the tongue?
Under the tongue. Got that big old,
So
artery.
check this out. I don't think it's that. I almost bit my tongue off as a kid, but it's the top.
Oh.
So under?
Under. So it's not like this dog could have bitten herself. It's on the very, very bottom. Like where the fold is at, like where it kind of curves, right in there. Okay. And so when the pet sitter comes in, she just sees blood squirting out and she freaks out, takes the dog.
They bleed like crazy. Dude, the tongue
bleeds
lot. Crazy.
A lot. Right. So she's freaking out. She calls me and says, and I had just gotten to town. She calls me. She's freaking out because it's my dog. Right. And so she's like, oh my God, Art's going to ruin me. And she called me like, oh my God, she's bleeding her mouth. Something happened. I don't know what's happened, and I'm taking her to the vet right now. And I'm like, hey, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. I knew in my mind that the tongue is very vascular, so it bleeds a lot, right? So I wasn't too worried about it. I knew she's going to live, right? I wasn't too concerned. I was like, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And she's like, no, it's not going to be okay. And I'm like, look, it's going to be okay. I'll meet you. Tell me where you're going to go and I'll meet you there. Not a big deal, whatever. So go over there. And she's sitting in the waiting room and my dog's not with her. She's actually in the back,
did she take her to your vet?
No, she took her to a emergency vet, that's close to her because it was on a Saturday, late evening. And we actually have the same vet. So it makes things kind of convenient. And so, I meet at the vet, whatever. And, I talk to the vet and, they bring my dog back and she was explaining to her that it was a hard place to reach, but they were able to get it. And they were like, she was so good about everything. She's my little dog, Nogi, this little one here, little pitty. She's like, she's so cute. Yes, she is. Anyways, I said, we were able to stop the bleeding. It just coagulated on its own. It stopped. And they said, we're able to stop it. We're going to send you home with some antibiotics, but, kind of explain everything. We're going to see some painkillers and some anti-inflammatory. I'd probably start that tonight. And we're also going to send you a cone so she doesn't mess with her mouth and this and that. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. So they bring me the bill. I don't really look at the bill. I just look at the total of the cost, right? I don't look at the breakdown. I look at the total cost. I'm like, whatever, I'll pay for it, right? That's where you go in like, okay, she's fine. You just pay whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so you pay for it. Speaking of my dog, she's laying on all my leashes over here. And so, I go out and pay and they're like, oh, she already paid for it. I was like, okay, whatever. So I go home and I started looking at the bill. Okay. And so I have it right here. So this is the breakdown of the bill.
Sweet.
All right. So emergency consult, $175. Okay. I'll pay whatever. It's $200, whatever. Professional services technician time, $53. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's what they pay the vet tech. I don't know. Invoice audit. This is where things get interesting. Okay. So I'm going to go over the medications they gave her. And then we'll go out what they charge us and then in comparison to what I found, right? Okay, so the first thing is antibiotics. It is the Clavamex tablets. They gave us 14 tablets. And then the gabapentin, they gave us 20 tablets, which is the, I guess, painkiller. And the Rimadyl, also a painkiller. And
Rimadyl
then
is also
anti-inflammatory, right? And then the Serenia, which is the anti-nausea medication, which is, they gave it to her in an injection.
Right?
What?
Oh, they gave it to her in an injection. It's
Correct.
like a tablet you mix with water normally, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then this painkiller, another painkiller that is an opioid. Okay, it's buprenorphine. Buprenorphine. I googled this and it's a pretty high, pretty strong. What's the word I'm looking for? Opioid. Okay, it's a very strong opioid.
Yeah.
Very addictive opioid, from what I understand too. But of course, my dog's
That'd be an interesting conversation to have about dogs and addiction if you start giving them opioids. I can't imagine they've been given those very long.
Yeah. And then the cone, the clear plastic cone. Okay. All right. So let's go back up to the Clavamex tablets. Okay. And just before we get into this, I'm going to give you the price. And then I was curious to know, like, if I were to go to Chewy's pharmacy, like how much it would. And I just went to Chewy, put the tablets, and then put in, how much it would be. Right. And granted, again, this is a generic form of the medication, but it is still the same medication, right? You would think that vets maybe can offer a generic form of medication. Okay, let's start with the Clavamex tablets. For 14 pills, which is 2 weeks worth of pills, 1 week worth of pills, $107. Okay, at Chewy, for the same amount of pills, $33. That is a markup of 223%. Okay, the gabapentin, they charge $56.48. If I went to Chewy, $4.80 for 20 tablets. And that is a markup of just over 1,000%.
And that's a markup from retail, dude. That's not a markup from what Chewy pays.
Correct. Because if you think about it, Chewy is marking this up too.
At least 100%.
Right.
All right. Okay. So if they're buying it for 2 and they're selling it for 4.
Right. The Rimadyl, they charge me $69.91. On Chewy, $4.
Fuck.
Okay. That's a markup of 1,647%.
I bet YouTube bleeps that part.
Yeah.
Probably gets edited.
Okay. Now this is the other one. So this is, again, I didn't have anything to compare this to. Yeah. But you kind of mentioned that's a Serenia. Okay. Serenia, usually, I remember when our dog had our Pickles when she was hospitalized, they gave her Serenia in a tube, like a paste. It wasn't that expensive. But this injection, again, you can't buy this. You can't buy an injection on there. But I did find like the pills. So they gave her basically 16 milligrams of the Serenia injection. It was $116. All right. But if I just bought like the pill, which she could have very well be given a pill, I assume, it was $6.03.
Fuck. Why did they assume she had nausea?
I don't know. That's the thing.
That didn't come up in a conversation, did it?
No. And the other thing is, like, again, I know I'm not criticizing the vets. There's a bigger problem than just the vets. I'm sure these vets care, and they're only doing what they've been told to do, right? They're following a protocol, okay? And then I didn't have anything to compare the opioid to because you can't buy opioids anywhere. And then the collar, the clear collar, this is where it got me. This is the first thing that I saw when I was like, what the heck? After I got home, $52. Okay. And roughly the most expensive one that I could find for the same brand was $20. You can buy these things for like $8 at the local pet store, right? And so when they give this to you, and I didn't even use it. Okay. So that's a mark of 161%. So then I was like, man, what's this crazy? Then at the same time, Tucker Carlson came out with an episode. He brought on Joe Spector, who's the founder of a company called Dutch. Dutch is a telemedicine group that basically you can, for like minor things or maybe not so minor, you can actually do a telemed for the vet industry, right?
Yep.
And so it's allowed in Florida, it's allowed in California, but it's not allowed in Texas. So he's like, it doesn't, when because like when it becomes like political, right? You can usually one side favors the other, but we've got Texas, who is a conservative, we've got Florida, conservative, California, which is a more liberal.
Right.
It doesn't cross, but it also depends who is funding who, right? So here he was, Joe Spector couldn't remember the name of the Secretary of State here in Texas. I'm sorry, not Secretary of State. It's Attorney General of Texas, which is Ken Paxton, who's under a lot of controversy with his infidelity and just all the stuff that he had been doing, dealings and things like that. So I don't put it past him to be being paid by these multi-billion-dollar industry in some way to block telemed, okay? Because as you know, in Florida, very similar to Texas, politically is allowing telemed, okay? And so, anyways, so Tucker Carlson brought him on. This happened like all around the same time. So I was already getting really interested in stuff, and then Tucker Carlson came out with an episode with Joe of Dutch, and then I just started digging deeper and deeper. Okay, so when I went up to this hospital, this particular hospital that my dog went to, I started to look at, well, who owns this company? Okay, and so it is not owned by a private equity company, but it's still run by a group. Okay, so it's not a big corporation. Okay, however, the person who leads this particular vet practice used to work for many years for VCA, which is also a very
it's a conglomerate, basically.
Yeah, yes,
it's a huge organization. That I think is the first one that went in and kind of did this approach, essentially, right?
I don't know. I didn't look at that deep, but this just started to pique my interest because, like, if you have worked for VCA, you kind of know how this runs. Then you bring this over to this new vet practice, right? And she was, this individual again worked for VCA for a very long time, ran VCA, and now is running this particular group. And so as I started digging deeper into who owns VCA, it's basically Mars companies, of the people who make M&Ms, but they also make a bunch of pet food.
Yeah.
So the people that are providing the food are now also providing a service that is basically treating the symptom, not even the symptom, treating the problem of being caused by the food. So it keeps them in rotation.
Do me you said it's the Mars family, right?
Yes.
I think I think they're private. I don't think they're even a public. Look it up real quick. Here.
Oh, I think you're right, actually.
And so that means that they're not. That
it's
means
a family.
The stockholders at all,
right?
Which is even different because now they can do as they choose and have influence in ways outside of the public sector having access to their information.
That is correct, because when I did look at in this episode, Joe Dutch spoke of two particular private equity firms that had purchased a bunch of vet practices, okay? And kind of just give you like a background of what happens is, like, you've got a lot of mom and pop shops, okay? And I've seen this happen in real time here in Dallas, okay? There's a place called City Vet. It was one practice and became many practices, okay? And so basically what they do is they purchase these practices from these mom and pop shops, and then they're able to basically expand their locations and whatnot, but they kind of corner you into the service that you get, right? So if you have an emergency, of course you're going to take your pet to go somewhere to get help, right? But
Well, what happens is they stop practicing medicine and they start practicing business. And there's a huge difference when that happens in this. Once that's what's, you're getting the business side of medicine,
yeah.
you know.
So again, I didn't. Let me see, because I dug deep in. Let me look at my notes here. So basically, what I was digging into was again in this episode, they didn't name the two private equity firms that have purchased uh, in buying up these practices. But they just said there are two veterinary practices or private equity firms that have been buying up all these businesses, and that there was a antitrust, well, not antitrust. There's a lawsuit filed against these organizations because of what they've been doing. The first one is I've never heard of these. Never heard of these. It's called Jab Holdings Company. And then there's KKR, which is Kohlberg, Kravis, Roberts and Company, which is a large network of veterinary clinics in the U.S., more than 450 clinics. All right. And the first one, the Jab Holdings, didn't give me.
Is it possible to tell who started or funded the equity? Is it go back to Pharmaceutical?
Well, yes, because if you look at who funds vet schools, it's a lot of the pharmaceutical company, right?
Correct. That's what
And,
this is coming back to.
right. And so again, I'm going to go back to I don't believe that vets are the problem. And I go back to that because even where currently who my vet is, he had 3 different locations, right? And so he's been doing this for 30 plus years. He's a really good, when I took my dog when she had her pyometra, he discounted so much.
Yeah.
He took off so much. And he's but he had to, and okay, so he had 3 locations. He sold off 2 of his locations, and this guy's been doing it for 30 years. He wants to retire. I'm not blaming him. He's worked really hard. And so if someone says, hey, I'm going to give you this money so that you can go off and retire, it's basically your retirement check, right? And so he's able to sell off 2. But part of the agreement when he sold the practice is that he was only allowed a certain budget to give discounts per year. So let's say they say for 30,000, you were only allowed 30,000 per year to give discounts, right? So he went in and said, okay, well, I'm going to give you the sonogram for this price. And, he kind of just my whole vet visit that I was expecting to pay over $1,500 was like $500. So I was really grateful that I had that. And a lot of vets back in the day could do that, right? I remember sitting at an emergency vet. I'll go and name it. Maybe I won't. I'm not going to name it. But it was a veterinary practice that it was a veterinary practice that it's kind of getting well known, but it's a pretty good model, which I do like. However, the thing is that I saw while sitting in the waiting room, I saw people come in, they get treated, they see the cost of whatever everything's going to cost, and they walk out the door because they can't afford it.
Right.
And it's man, what do you do at that point?
So the other side behind this is going to be the companies that provide those little micro loans to the people at the counter, right? So everybody's funding the same thing. So the companies that are going to fund the private equity that is buying the vet's offices, if you dig deep, most likely also have funding sources to the people who can't afford the vet bills that you just talked about too.
Yeah.
So that it gets so calculated, and how anything that has a lot of money, you said it, you mentioned the difference between billions.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And the other thing, Todd, we have to remember is that when we look at healthcare, when it comes to dogs and let's say humans, and they're both bad. I'm also experiencing that on the human side as well right now. And so if you have a dog that's sick and you take it to the vet, you're going to pay for it. There's no insurance to deal with. It's cash pay, so to speak. That makes sense. People are going to pay whatever it takes for their pet to survive. And it is just what people are going to do. Whereas if you go into the healthcare industry, they have to deal with insurance companies, all the hassle of that and marking it up because doctors will charge more because they have to, work with the insurance companies, right? This is why me personally, and we've talked about this, I do a lot of self-pay. I have a doctor that I trust. I have his phone number. I text him anytime I have a problem. I text him, he calls me, we do a consultation. If I need a prescription, he sends it to me. And it's way cheaper than health insurance. Okay. But here's the problem. Okay. I had to take something to my doctor recently. And I was like, hey, I have this going on, whatever. He's like, oh, you probably should need to see a specialist. He goes, I would go to your insurance company and see who is the specialist that they'll cover it, whatever. And so I gave him the person I found that the insurance would cover. Okay. Make an appointment with this specialist. Okay. Then they call me back, says, hey, by the way, we never got the referral from your doctor. I was like, well, my doctor sent the information. I know he would do that. And she's like, well, they need to go through the insurance company, fill out through the portal, and so that you can get the referral. I was like, but my doctor's not in network. This is why, like, he's a doctor. He's not in network. It's like, well, it won't be covered because you're not in network. So now I'm being penalized because I choose to go to a doctor that I get good care for. And now I need to go see a specialist and they won't cover me because it's not in network. I can pay out of pocket, but here's the thing. Let's say what I have is serious. Okay. Then the vet could say, well, you went out of network and you're not going to cover you because you went out of network, even though I have this problem, even though they know that I have an issue going on that is serious, they're not going to cover me because because I went out of network.
Well, what you're going through, they're recreating on purpose. So I don't know purpose in the vet world. So to me, it works like this.
That's my point. That's my point.
The things that are driving up the cost, or that the veterinarians coming out of med school are taught diagnostic medicine. They're taught business medicine, right? So if tests, it's do things not, like I said, why did they give an anti-nausea? That's what I mean, is that's kind of adding that, or tests and these type of things. So they're coming out and they're naturally going to be doing things that don't need to be done. They're not necessarily learning like from the health of the animal. They're learning through a series of steps they've been told.
Yeah.
The other side of this is as they have bosses that are based solely in money, as the private equity firms buy these things, the first thing private equity does is strip it down. It's the first thing they do. I mean, that's what they do. And it can be for the real estate. It can be for all kinds of stuff. A lot of times it's simply because they want the real estate these vets offices are in. And in some way, shape, or form, they don't care if the vet office is performing because their real motivation was the real estate. So that's where it sucks, is that you now have people running it that are business oriented. So it's just like what I said. So they have to do business tasks. They have to charge you $50 for a cone. Now, this sounds kind of counterintuitive, but this is actually going to drive it up faster than anything. As more and more people get insurance for their pets, the price is going to go through the roof, because just like with humans, when there's a third party payer, price goes up. There's like if you go and get your eyes done.
But it's different, Todd. It's different because the way it works with the pet insurance is that you pay out of pocket and they reimburse you.
But what I'm saying is, as more and more coverage happens, it's going to turn into the same type of thing you see in the human world. And as health insurance enters any industry in mass, cost goes up. And what I was about to say, like, there's no health insurance on elective procedures, like cosmetic surgeries. So you'll see the cost of those things is way low in relation to, like, surgeries that are covered by insurance, or eyes. Mm-hmm. Very few people have eye insurance.
Or dental.
More and more people are getting dental. So what are you seeing in the dental industry? You're seeing that same business model recreated, where nobody's practicing dentistry.
Yeah.
They're practicing like businessry, and they're just using your fucking teeth. It's just like they're using your dog. Yeah. Why have they targeted dogs? Because nobody's having kids. So it's weird. I was going to do a post on it too, that you got to take, when you go to the vet, in my opinion, you have to go in, tell the vet what you see.
Yeah.
Right. So don't tell the vet what you think it is. Go, this is what I see in my dog. My dog used to do this. Now they're doing this. My dog normally does this. Now they do this. My dog normally does this. Now they do this. What do you think that is, doc? Don't just let them talk to you in tests. In my opinion, they have to talk to you in more clear terms to force them into like a diagnostic mind. Okay. So what could that be, doc? Those are the things. Well, let's run these tests. Okay, perfect. Let's run these tests. Now, if these tests come back negative, what does that mean? You know what I mean? I don't think there's enough, like, let's go.
There's no analysis on anything, because and honestly, that comes with experience. And so, for example, if someone comes to us for a behavior, we kind of already know. We don't know, but we know. You know what I mean? Like, we know I always tell people, like, in their eyes what they see, but I was like, I'm not going to really know until I see it, but I already have a good idea, right? And especially if you run into some clients that are like very intuitive, like my dog, like you said, used to do this, is now doing this. Well, I saw this, I saw that, and this is what happened. So when they're painting that picture, then I already know like what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. Like I already know that because through the experience. Now and veterinarians, they don't do that anymore. Like this old vet has been practicing for 30 years. He knows, like I told him, he's like, well, this, without even looking at a test or doing this, he's like, well, it's probably going to be this. And so he's like, well, let's go to confirm. Let's go do a sonogram to see it. Now it's like, I don't know what it is. Let's go find out what it is. And if we end up empty-handed, well, then I really know what it is. So again, it's a business model. It's an upsell of things.
Right.
Let's go ahead and run a sonogram. Let's do this and let's do that. I remember I had a client dog and I had to rush it to the emergency vet. And it just one morning started throwing up and I took it to emergency vet and they're like, well, we could do a sonogram. I'm like, no. Just tell me what you think it is. Like it's nauseous when there's something, and they end up like wanting to run it. I was like, no, I don't want to do all this stuff. Like, let me just tell, like, is she going to die? Right. First of all, is it something neurological, blah, blah. And they were like, they just really couldn't answer those questions. Like, oh my God, like I'm just getting really frustrated here. So I ended up walking out. The dog was fine. But that's the thing. Like they don't know how to analyze stuff. They're not taught how, but again, I know that it comes with experience.
How much was the total bill?
The total bill for mine?
Yep.
$718.
How long were you there?
That's a good point. 45 minutes maybe. But
you want to hear craziness out of craziness in the human world? So, Jen going through some health issues. Last January, it was actually about this time, she had this prolonged like lapse. And I got scared and I wanted to take her to the emergency room to make sure that everything was okay. And she didn't want to go, but we hesitantly went to one of these new ones that's been built over by our house in the last couple of years. So we go in, we're there for 4 hours. They do a CT and they run a couple other tests. They actually give her a medicine that she didn't take that ends up, had she taken, was actually quite dangerous for her. And that was how long she was there. And that's what she had. Just throw a number out. What you think it was?
20 grand.
25. And I think there was some additional charges to that. Like, how they throw some additional charges later on after that, like a doctor's charge or something like that. Remember when I told you about my mom who got, so I don't know, for people listening, my mom and my dad were camping and during load up, my mom was pulling the chocks out from the tires and miscommunication. My dad moved and it ran her thumb over and it ripped the tip of her thumb off when it did it. My dad thought they could save the thumb. So they airlifted her to a hospital it was in Tennessee somewhere.
Airlifted, say no more.
Okay. Yeah. I've asked this number and nobody comes even remotely close. How much?
75 grand.
92 for, everybody that guess 10 to 15. Even my parents thought it was going to be something like that.
And the reason why I know that is because I was looking at my insurance the other day, and I was like, what are they? Actually, it was my insurance. I'm looking for other healthcare stuff. I'm looking to, and they just had what they cover, and it said like airlift 50. They cover 50,000 or something like that. That's why I said that.
So how does this, to the people that are watching this? I mean, Art, what does this mean? I mean, what do you do? How do you do this? I mean, like you, I'm fortunate in that I have a vet that I've used for 15 years. I can't imagine he's going to own it forever. And unless he gives it to an employee or keeps it in the family in some weird way like that, I don't see that happening.
That's what's going to happen. They're just going to either die off or they're going to cash in. Again, I'm not blaming the vets. I think that, I mean, shit, I would do the same thing probably. If someone says, hey, Art, I'm going to give you X amount of money. Yeah, of course. And by the way, this is coming to the dog training industry too, by the way.
Well, this is the thing that's interesting is that we're going to be pushed out by the same people because the pharmaceutical companies are trying to remove the human element from the dog training world and make it purely a dog issue so that people will think that they can fix it through something like medicine. Right. So the less responsibility the human has in the behavior of your kids or your dogs, the easier it is to medicate them to improve the situation. It's not me, man.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see a big push for that. To me, I think to play defense on that on the health side, it's worth it now. And I think if the pet food industry, the ones that aren't owned by the same industry we're talking about, were smart, right now you can play defense by spending money on unbelievable food, understanding that there are a lot of behavior implications to health. So There's more to walking a dog than the behavior side. I believe the energy that gets trapped inside creates inflammation and starts to create autoimmune issues. There's too many allergies for it not to be, created on that side. So I think really trying to take responsibility, and it's going to cost you a little bit more to feed a dog really good food, but you're going to save that money and not having to go and get, hundreds and hundreds of dollars in your vet bills.
Yeah. So you asked, what are we going to, like, what is the outcome of all this, right? And so there's two things that I see happening. One, these companies get richer and richer, right? The other thing is that people are going to stop going to the vets. I'm one of those, by the way. I do have a vet that I use, but I know, like, for example, when my dog, when she got pyometria, because she wasn't spayed, when she got pyometria, I knew, because you can go to the website and find out like how much a pyometria surgery is, emergency spay is. It was like $4,000. Okay. So when I saw she had the discharge, I was like, oh man, she probably has pyometria, and I freaked out. Right. And so I called a friend, like, hey, here's what's going on. And she's like, hey, well, I know that this called, as a Mercy Vet, I want to name the vet practice because it is also owned by a corporation. Like, you go to the website and see how much it is. And I was like, fuck, like, that's not something that I wanted right now. You know what I mean? And so it was like $4,000. And so, but I was like, if it saves her life, fine, I'll do it. But then I called another colleague of mine who's a dog trainer, who's been doing this for a long time. And she's like, okay, look, it depends. There's two types of pyometria. There is an open pyometria and a closed pyometria. If you went to vet school after like 1998, or she had a certain year, she's like, you were taught that there's two types of pyometria. You could treat it one or two ways, one with antibiotics or one with, emergency spay, right? He's like, now it's just immediate emergency spay off the bat, no questions asked, right? And so the difference between open and closed that she told me was that, again, I'm not a vet. I'm just going by what I was told. And I actually confirmed this with my vet. He was also on board with me doing the way we were doing this, but we had some antibiotics. My friend's like, hey, if you have antibiotics, you can start treating her with antibiotics now to kind of kill off the infection, because the body's naturally doing what it's supposed to do, which is get rid of the infection. If that's an open pyometria, if it's closed, you wouldn't even know it's enclosed. It's not
a dog bite. It's like the abscess that happens underneath a dog bite. As long as the dog bite stays open, typically less infection. As soon as the top of that dog bite closes up, it's the same thing, right?
Right. So and so she was like, my friend's like, you could treat her with antibiotics for a little while, see how she does, and immediately within 3 or 4 days, she was back to normal again. Just treated with antibiotics, no discharge, no nothing. But knowing that she is going to be more prone to get more infections, we decided to just get her spayed.
Can you say susceptible?
I can't say that word. No, thanks. There's certain words that I just can't say, and that's one of them. But we decided to get her spayed. And, but she's probably like 4 years old, and her behavior didn't change at all.
Real quick little side thing. Has your viewpoint on spay and neuter changed since you got it?
Yes.
In what way?
I used to be for them, and now I'm not really for them.
Like, I understand the purpose, right? I get the reason is population or overpopulation, but I believe there's a wisdom and a self-control and a sense of calmness that's lost.
Yeah.
In early spay and neuters.
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. And it's funny because like people ask me, so what do you like? People who get like puppies will ask me, I'm like, look, if you have a vet that you work with and you like, just go with what they say, because you're gonna be going to them. But since you're asking me, this is what I believe.
Well, they can do vasectomies now where they still get the testosterone, right?
Right. And they do the ovarian sparing spay, which we were going to do that with her, but just because it was kind of like time sensitive and things like that, we couldn't do that. So, which they still remove the uterus.
Medicine I like is that they're like, okay, wait a second. There's people out there doing hormone replacement therapy. I think that's cool because somebody took a look at things and went, wait, we got a little off track. How do we bring things a little bit back to the center? And then that's one of those things. That's why I asked you, is I definitely think there's a hormone behavior connection that doesn't get enough attention, especially in that whole concept of insecure dominance.
Yeah. And the other thing, Todd, I think that we should also bring up is that in the vet industry is probably one of the, I don't have a number for this, but they deal with a lot of compassion fatigue, right? So basic compassion fatigue, we can get that too, by the way, which I feel like I have gotten past way when I first started. But basically, it's the fatigue that you get when you get to experience a lot of, death or, illnesses and pets, people upset that their pets are ill. So you're around a lot of energy that can bring you down.
And just giving your own energy away. It's not even so much that, it's that it's not it's a combination, I think.
Right.
Some people it's for the energy they take in, some it's for the energy they give out. I think like in the healthcare industry, like in nurses, you can identify it. The really like well put together, super uberly fit, attractive nurses always seem to be a little cold, right? Like they don't take it in as much, and they've created a shield knowingly or not. And the ones that allow themselves to take it in, you can actually, it looks like physically their bodies are, not in quite the same shape. It affects it in a really powerful way.
Yeah. So what this causes is a lot of times a shortages of veterinarians, right? And so sometimes they may be overworked, especially and again, I think that a lot of these veterinarians get into this because they truly love animals. Like,
Right.
there's no doubt that they truly love animals. And another shift that I've seen is that they've gone, I remember when I was younger, a lot of veterinarians were male. Now a lot of them are female, which I'm not opposed to. I think that is a good thing. I just think that a lot of times, I remember, again, these country vets, right? They're like, this is what it is, and this is what we're going to do, and you're out the door. But it's not like this fast thing where now it's like, it's just different, everything is just very different. And so when you have less veterinarians, then that could also raise the cost of things because like inflation, so to speak, or what's a
fear-free is female. Fear-free, that concept, that exists because you have a primarily female industry now in the vet world. That came up, that was developed by industry, and it's promoted in that way. It only exists for that reason. I mean, the majority, and at least in my experience, the majority of every veterinary behaviorist that I've heard about or people have told me about or said they use is what? Woman, a female, right? And it's amazingly how masculine they can be when they disagree with your idea. But everything else is just fear-free, 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 fear-free.
Yeah.
And I hate the concept because it means that anything else you're not using means it creates fear, which is ludicrous. But the psychological industry, the social services industry is the same thing. So what you've seen as a shift in that is that you no longer face fears, you move out of the way. Because that's the difference between, again, if you don't believe there's a difference between the way men and women are, then what I'm saying sounds bigoted. But in reality, a woman is more conforming because it's safer. There's things that go into that, a part of the, you know what I mean? Part of the family unit and so forth. So if you have a whole bunch of females in an industry, it's a little bit easier to shape a way, especially if it's a way like what you see, this fear-free, everything is, oh no, don't say no, type of thing. I don't know. Sometimes the way I look at things and break things down, it sucks because you start to look between things and then it looks like everything's conspiratorial. But at the end, funny how a lot of those things play out to be true. I had somebody here was a vet student. This is a quote from her. We give out trazodone like candy. I don't make that up. That's not from me. I'm not in a vet school. That's from somebody was in the moment in the school learning. And that was a phrase that was given to me. So that's kind of disturbing in my opinion. And it really, I don't know, it backs up a lot of that weird, really what's behind this. The medicine is behind it. The medicine is the most ongoing business building part of it, the pharmaceutical side. Merck is the biggest, I think, pharmaceutical company that deals with humans that's in it. And there's another pharmaceutical company, I just looked them up, that's the biggest one for dogs. They're vaccines. They're the ones that do Apoquel and that type of stuff. And there's some great medicines out there. There's certain medicines that have been great, but if the fact that Rimadyl is still given out means that we really don't, do you need an opiate for a dog?
Yeah, it's funny you said, because I gave her like 2 days of it. And after the first several days, she was fine. I was like, I'm not giving her painkillers anymore.
How about this, dude? Pain. This is, again, sometimes me playing with the colored puzzle pieces can go deep, but pain is very emotional and it's very intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
And dogs don't experience pain,
Yep.
in my opinion, in either of those ways. Tell by
Yep.
the way that dogs sometimes have to look for where the pain is coming from. Right. So the idea of, oh, is this going to hurt tomorrow? How bad is this going to hurt later? Is it going to get better? That's human.
Right.
Humans go through that. So
100%.
so how much dog medicine is needed and where is it needed?
Yeah, totally agree. And that's why, I didn't give her all the, after like the first day, once she started eating again, because the first night she didn't want to eat. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, maybe. The next day she ate, but she was still kind of struggling a little bit. Like, okay, I'll give you a little more. But then in the evening, after a day and a half or 24 hours later, she was already back to normal. And I knew that because she does this one thing that drives us crazy is like when a certain door is open and closed, she'll bark. It drives me crazy. Okay. And she started barking. I'm like, oh, she's back to normal. And so we just stopped giving her the painkillers,
What do you tell your clients on how do you suggest it's time to go to the vet? What markers or indicators do you use?
I just say like, there's an instinct that you have that that your dog is off. You just know like, oh, something's not right. You have an instinct. It's there for a reason. At least I would think people would have those things. I just trust those instincts. If you think something's wrong, something's wrong.
I go by poop, appetite, and energy level. If two of them are off, you probably should go. Right. So your dog can have an off day on any one of something. But if I start to see a couple of them, and like you said, which is important is, are your dogs acting in their normal patterns and routines? That's a huge one. Because that to me is one of the biggest indicators of being off. Is if there's a little torque in a routine. And then if I see that your poops are, different, you're not eating the same, especially if your dog's got an appetite, that's a big one. But you run your dog to the vet, you know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to do the whole one funny story. This is why it's important to have, I think, a good relationship. So Hercules, I'm in the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm sitting down. This is years ago, by the way.
So you're pooping, what you're saying.
I'm pooping. Well, I'm a dude. I might sit down every once. No, I'm pooping. And he comes in and he's got the most just dazed look on his face. He's like swaying and he's going all weird.
He ate your weed?
I go, dude. I snatch him up and I rush him to the vet. And on the way to the vet, he becomes like taxic, where he starts going like this and doing this weird thing. And I rush him in and I go, I think I'm losing him as I get into the vet. Because it was instant. And they rush him into the back and the vet comes over and we just start going back and forth. I go, sudden onset. I go, he out of nowhere, it's like he's gotten poisoned. I go, his blah, 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 super different. And we start going back and forth. I go, haven't given him flea meds. He'd ask me a question. I'd ask a question. And I go, wait, could it be weed? And he grabs a book. Yep. And they make him throw up. And a little piece came out. Now, they try to tell you that it's dangerous, but nobody's ever actually, it's very, 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 very rare, at least in my readings, because I went down this rabbit hole, that a dog has died, at least from what I checked out, right? You're told it's really toxic and poisonous. The reason I'm bringing this up, there's a very important reason that I'm bringing this up. And all that ended up happening, they got it out. I'm not even sure what they got out was weed. He was just high. He was just really high. It was actually quite relaxing for him. You could see it. Once I knew what it was, I was like, okay. He was just really high. He was super relaxed. About a year later, I saw another dog that had eaten it, because I saw a piece on the ground, and then that right as I'm like, oh, I need to go pick that up, it disappeared. And I watched the dog for the next several hours just relax, kind of wander around, sleep, relax.
Did you join in? Like, let's go hang out. Let's go bond together.
This, dude, it's in my opinion what could be super, super helpful for dogs in a lot of these super anxious moments. And I have a buddy of mine who said every night before bed, he'd give his dogs a tiny flake. They would just sleep really good. I do believe we've been told it's toxic, but I don't believe it is what I'm trying to tell you. They digest it differently. It's different in them. It is different. I'd like feedback. I'm not saying I know, but in the research I've done, what you see is that your dogs get super relaxed. And you've used the same guy, the guy that does the CBD oils. Well, he gives us CBD oils that have flour in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's just in an oil form. And look what it does. I mean, you've used his oils, right? Have you used his indica oil for dogs?
Yes.
Dude, dogs, they're feeling different.
Yeah.
I do believe that's something that people can use very effectively, especially if you understand like how and when to give it.
Yeah. I wish actually Anthony, who sells the oil on here, I've done not a podcast, but like I did a live with them one time, kind of just talking about the oils and things like that. So maybe I should get him on there. He would love to come on here.
I think that'd be good because it's an element that can be super helpful for dogs, and it's not narcotic. It's not an opiate, obviously.
Yeah. You could take them off. There's no side effects, things like that.
Nothing like that. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen when they come off, and you can see it. It's one of those few things that I've been able to see a super tangible effect in a moment of behavior.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So again, all this happened when I experienced this, and then I saw the episode. I sent it to you. I'm like, hey, check this out. And I had sent you what I found on the medication prices, things like that. And then I was like, we should probably do an episode on this. And then just yesterday, we have a listener, and this is totally random, by the way. This is how like the universe works. Randomly, there's one of our most loyal followers. His name is Travis Brown. He's a trainer out of Houston. He always comments on all our stuff. He put on his Facebook, this is what he wrote. I had to rush Prince to the Mercy Vet yesterday. There's something going on with him that I don't believe is small, but that's that intuition that he has.
Yeah.
And him working with dogs, he knows, right? He's like, I don't believe it's small, but I need to get blood work done and possibly x-rays. He's better today, but I want to get a more extensive evaluation on him. Can anyone please recommend a low-cost clinic if there are any left that Mars Candy Bars doesn't own?
Oh, shit.
So he knows.
Yep.
And this is us dealing, again, I've noticed this in the last 5 years here locally with some of the vet practices that have been bought out and things like that. So this is not just happening here in Dallas, this is happening nationwide. And so it's just unfortunate because everybody that I talk to, I was like, I wish we could just find one of those country vets again, those. And as a matter of fact, Todd, I had to go this past weekend. I went back, so I went home to Del Rio, Texas, where I grew up, and I went there for Christmas, spent some time with the family. While we were there, my cousin became really ill, and she ended up passing away the day after we came back. So I had to go back down there just this weekend and to have her funeral. And as I was driving down town, I was like, that is where the vet used to be. And it was the owner, it's no longer, that practice is no longer there. The guy died, okay? But my point is that even in these little towns, they only had like 1 or 2 vets, okay?
Right.
They didn't have these big corporations. Now what you see, even in these little towns, is you get these like corporation type businesses. And it's the normal. It's urgent care, right? It's these, I'm talking about on the human side, urgent care. Like it's the same thing. Like, so sometimes, because we have a pediatrician that we like, we have a doctor that we like. And so I'm going to right now because of, my stuff going on, I reach out to our pediatrician. I'm like, hey, by the way, this is what I have going on with me. I know you're not my doctor. I know you can't treat me. But if you had a friend, that friend being me, that was having these symptoms, what would you tell them? Like, who would you send them to? And she's like, I don't know if you knew this, but I actually work at another clinic that is it's like a male clinic, whatever, blah, blah. She's like, I'll get you a referral on Tuesday. So I'm waiting to get that tomorrow. So,
there was a court case recently where they wanted to make dogs considered human family members. Do you know what's going to potentially happens?
I never thought about that, Todd. You're so right.
Play that out. What's going to happen?
What's going to happen, because now they're going to become family, which they can be included in insurance, which then can be included. They can raise the cost of things.
So then that means vets would need to have insurance to prevent malpractice
God,
lawsuit.
I've never thought about that, Todd. Never thought about that.
Crazy, right? There's a reason for flipping everything. There's never altruistic reasons if it's coming through government or law. Never, ever.
But they're playing onto the emotions of the people. Yes,
Yeah.
they are family. So they get something. This is what they do. They go into to have people agree on it so they can get them on board, and then
that's
let's
why
do it.
The AI episode we did, I was tuned into the language and the tone of the language. The manipulation behind the way language and words are used now is so strong that if you don't come at it like with, okay, how am I being played? It passes you up. I know it sounds cold that dogs are property, but the fact that dogs are property is really important.
You can't sue the doctor for malpractice.
It's miles deep, dude. It's miles deep. If you hit a dog that's family, you can be sued differently. It's property. You can only be sued for property value. But if you hit a dog and it's family, now it's family distress. That's incalculable, dude. This is supported probably. There's probably an attorney background to this. People playing this out, going a couple steps forward. And as dogs become our family, not our actual kids, you're going to see this shit, dude. It's going to be nuts.
I never thought about that. Oh, man.
Right?
We're fucked.
That should start this episode right there. That'll get people interested because it's like, this is where we're at. Our dogs are being used as pawns to the next level of financial, whatever it is.
This is crazy. I can only assume there's like these people in these back rooms saying, okay, how can we play to the emotions of people? I mean, it's already happened for years, right?
Dude, on the whiteboard, dogs as family was written down years ago. Everything has been building to support that dogs as family thing, meaning that it was tangible for those. The most accurate numbers, like in real life, come from the people who calculate life insurance. Those are the people that, because like everybody's life and death is a number now, right? It's a calculable thing. Those are the people that can really see that type of stuff. And they were the ones that were talking about like, I guess back in 2020, the death, it was nuts. But those people will see it. There's a reason. You don't want dogs as family, people. Don't push for it. Live it. I mean, live that.
That's what I say. You can live it, believe it,
but don't make it law.
Yeah. And the other thing that, wow, I'm kind of mind blown by that, by the way. I'm kind of speechless because, again, live it. I love my dogs. I love being with them. And do I see them as family? Of course, they are my family. I would defend them like I would defend my family, you know?
Yeah, right. I mean, like, fuck with my dog.
Yeah. But to get, I don't want to say the government, but get policies in place that as my mind is thinking right now, Todd, like I'm just going down this whole rabbit hole of if that were to happen. And yes, they're playing on the emotions of people.
Groomers would have to have a different type of insurance. We would have to have a different type of insurance. We would all have to have a malpractice insurance. Everybody that handles a dog, the same way that if you handle kids, you have to have a certain type of insurance in place.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a malpractice, but we're trying to change behavior or improve health.
Yeah.
So that.
And there's a big push here as far as trainers, because like in Germany, you need, I think it's called a P11, you need a you need to be certified through the government, a license to train dogs. And there's been a big push that there should happen here, that should happen in the US, that you should only, they should be like certified. They should go through the government to get a license to train dogs, like there is for veterinary practice, this and that. Now, the downside to that is that they could come after you for malpractice, but also a lot of who decides these practices, it's all subjective, right?
Completely.
All subjective, and what way you use, right? So we can be viewed as the wrong way, even though we have great success and we have experience and we have all these things, whereas someone else who say, let's prescribe medication, let's do all this stuff, is the right way to do it.
Why do you think that the money is behind the push to disintegrate the pillars of pack, hierarchy, dominance? Because if those things are real, their method doesn't hold water. If those things are real, people can see holes in what they're offering. But fear-free is predicated on the fact that you think your dog is not influenced by you, right? That you think your dog is autonomous in their own, so to speak, and that that the concept of your energy influencing your dog's behavior in a hierarchical way is patriarchal. It's the whole, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I mean by how everything's tied together. I believe there's a massive push to denigrate the approach we use, not because there's this, there's a better way. It's not that. It's that they're trying to program the language so that the language we use is quickly dismissed, and the people looking for help, looking for the next vet, looking for the next place to go, turn into the language that they've been programmed to use.
Mm-hmm.
How many pack's not real? That's stupid. The dumbest thing is that when it said dominance isn't real, that's just stupid. I'm watching a kitten understand how moving forward and back. Earlier today, we have 2 other cats. The kitten was coming up on one of the cats and sniffed it, and the cat turned around and went, what do you think the kitten did?
We were right before we started filming too, by the way.
That was dogs, but this was a cat. It's funny. The cat won't submit to the dogs. The cat moves forward to the dogs and pops the dogs. The kitten does. Okay. The kitten is moving forward to the dogs. It went and sniffed one of the cats, and the cat turned around and popped it. What do you think it did?
Moved away.
Flipped on its back. It submitted. It surrendered. The concept of dominance and submission isn't a pack concept. You don't have to be in a pack to have that. And that's what I'm saying. That is so important that they remove that. Because then what happens is you're going to be dealing with your dog's dominance with medicine. You're going to be dealing with your dog's dominance with a prescription. Anyways, we can go on and on. Down the rabbit hole we go.
Yeah. Well, when we, right before we started filming, you were like, oh, look at this little kitten, which I think you posted this kitten on your social media. But you're like, oh, check this out. And I wasn't recording at this time. I started recording after, but it was really cool because you're like, oh, check this out. And so the cat is like in this little elevated bed kind of thing that's hanging. She jumps off, and Blueberry's laying down on the bed. And the way the cat was moving sideways, that curve, but was moving like sideways, making itself bigger. And then Blue's like just looking, and then you kind of move the camera and like, oh, did you see that? I'm like, no, what happened? He's like, oh, she just popped Blueberry. Of course, we didn't see that, but when I saw everything, how she was moving, it was kind of cool. She was just moving sideways.
Now, the reason she was moving sideways at that time is because Hercules was on the other side of her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she got caught. So she was puffing up to Hercules.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but if you watch her, she moves like she looks at Blue and stares at Blue. The direct eye contact's insane, like this, and then we'll move it forward a couple of steps and be like that. It's pretty cool to watch. I love watching any little animal.
Yeah,
little kittens are awesome.
Well, closing thoughts, Todd.
I'm not suicidal.
I am not either.
You know what I mean? I just think you have to be an advocate for your dog's health and your wallet. And so you need to go in and be selective with what you think is needed. If you think your dog swallowed a sock, advocate for an x-ray, not a blood test. And really get your vet to be more clear on why they're doing the tests they're doing and what can happen or what's the next step. Let's play this out a couple of steps, doc. So you think it's this, so you're going to take an x-ray. So if an x-ray doesn't show anything, what else could it be? What's our next step? So that they don't unconsciously start just testing. You know what I mean? I'm all for that if everybody's kind of at a dead end, but advocate through questioning. Hold your vet not accountable like you better tell me, but hold your vet accountable by asking good questions so that your vet has to come back to you with good responses and you guys have a nice back and forth. The one with the weed is funny, but it really indicates that me and my vet can go back and forth. We have a unique situation with we're there, but I see a lot of people surrender at the vet more than they even do at a doctor. I think more people are more inclined to just not ask any questions to a vet than they are even on their own health. And I think they need to ask more questions. That's my thoughts.
Yep. I'm still kind of speechless when you said the little family thing. So I have no closing thoughts of that one.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This was this is honestly maybe one of the most important episodes we've ever done. And I kind of feel like leading up to this, all the research and all the stuff, and I'm still digging, by the way. I'm still going down rabbit holes with this stuff. And I just feel like this rabbit holes is not never ending. And like I say, just follow the money. That's where the answers are at. Unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. And so, I just feel like vet care is going to get worse as we go on. As a thought that I kind of had a little conversation with my wife, and I was like, this may be the last dogs we ever have, just because of how crazy things are. So
yeah, it opens the door for people to start businesses that are based more in small scale. Maybe you're a traveling vet, you come to us, right? I think that's a great new wave. You could just trick out a van or an RV and you come to me and your practice is on wheels.
Well, which we've had.
Yeah.
We had our vet that we have always had come to the house. She actually sold her practice recently. So
there you go. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
All right. Talk to you guys later.